So I have a 2.5-year-old. So my morning routine generally involves waking up and being bossed around. We're deep in the terrible twos. I think it's really easy to put all your focus on the things you do while you're in the office or while you're in meetings, but particularly I think as you go up in leadership levels, and really anyone in a creative discipline, it's the white space that actually is more important. It's the other things you do in your life that make you better at the stuff when you actually do. I was like a hippie idealist in college. I like to say that, so many people around here that I meet went to like MIT and Harvard, and I remind them that I went to craft beer drinking school. But I was a journalist and I was a total kind of idealist going out to change the world. And so never really even considered sort of business as a career coming out of college, but had a strong love for storytelling. And in journalism, I got to experience so many different industries. I worked for a business publication, and I got to experience all these different industries. So I'd be in the morning sitting down with like some dudes doing a startup in Fort Collins, and in the afternoon be talking to a farmer about sugar beet futures out on the plains. And so I got exposed to all these businesses. I never connected that I could actually work for those until I got out of school and realized that you can't make any money in journalism. And so I got out of school and just sort of didn't know what to do. I considered actually going to law school, and I went, and I remember the day I got basically a BDR job. I was at a football game at CU, and I interviewed at halftime for this job in sales effectively. And I didn't really know what salespeople did, but it seemed like something where you could make money and buy your beer. And so, took that job and got involved with a startup in Boulder, Colorado. And that startup needed some help with kind of writing content and creating promotional materials. And so sort of naturally started helping out there. And it was maybe 6 months into that I started to realize that actually marketing is just what we say, and the journalism skill set might have some legs in that, right? And so started writing copy, and took off from there. The core marketing skill set is still communications, right? And I think you can get lost in all the technology we have today and data we have, and that's all really important, but it's all really important for understanding who are we talking to, what do they care about, and are we saying the right things in the right order? I think what great marketers do is they take complex things and they make them super simple. And that's actually the skill set you learn in journalism. You're having to go and learn all these different things from agribusiness to software, and take complex subjects and make them really simple for the readership of that publication, right? And I still think that's the same thing we need to think of as marketers. I tell my team all the time that, we are not competing with other B2B marketers for mindshare. We're competing with Instagram. People want to be entertained with content, and business content needs to rise to that level. And that starts with really understanding your audience, what they care about, what's going to actually stop them in their tracks, and being able to tell stories. We've been communicating in stories forever, right? Our human traditions are built on stories. And so as marketers, I think we strip away all the technology and everything else we've built on top of it. Are we telling the right story to the right audience to persuade them to believe something we'd like them to believe? If I look back at my career, and more importantly, I look back at the most successful people I've worked with throughout my career, they've come at everything with just a ton of intellectual curiosity. And I think that gets to the heart of your question there, which is you just really go into it knowing that you don't know anything, but having a profound sense of the things that you love doing that could help solve that problem. So one piece of career advice I give people all the time is just find interesting problems and solve them. Because if they're interesting to you, it's probably stuff you're good at. If they're interesting to the company, it's probably that something's important. And that's going to take you all over the place. And I think, being a CMO today is very different, I think, than it was, a decade ago. And I think it requires just a tremendous amount of empathy for all parts of marketing, and more importantly, all parts of a business. And so, having that open-mindedness and getting in there and being humble enough to know you don't know what you don't know, and taking the time to really figure it out makes you a better marketer. And I think, people got to take that opportunity. CMO now, my role now is different in that we're in very different markets. I think the CMO role in general is very similar. I think the modern CMO is a combination of go-to-market strategy and the ability to kind of execute across all channels with a consistent message, right? So marketing is what we say, going back to my kind of early learnings. I think that's fairly standard in CMO roles in particularly enterprise buying models. But the market changes how you act as CMO. At Sovos, we were rolling up a market to deal with digital taxation, which meant that we were constantly pulling together solutions from all over the world to create something that didn't exist before. And so it was an inorganic growth model with decent organic growth. And so it meant a lot of acquisition, having a brand story that we could start to kind of align things behind. Whereas where we are now, we are in a market that is one of the hottest markets in software. You know, the market's growing at 50% year over year. And so we're in a land grab market. And so we got to figure out how we can quickly get QuickBase out there and known for what we've actually been good at for like 20 years and win favor with a bunch of folks that are buying software very quickly. So that puts us in, I think when you're in a hyper growth mode, it's different than when you're in a steady acquisition organic growth mode. CMOs are almost always, I think, brought in to drive change. And that's why I came in. That's what attracted me to the role. I looked at the role on three fronts. Is it a really exciting market? 100%. Is it a culture where it matches how I like to operate in my core values? 100%. And is it what they need right now, what I'm really good at? So QuickBase has actually been around for quite some time, but we're in a market that's taking off. And the group at QuickBase had realized that their biggest opportunity was in big enterprise companies, but they've kind of ended up there by accident, right? So what I walked into was a couple things. One, a really awesome team, tons of talent. Two, a really killer product. A product that customers absolutely loved. But on the other side, very few people knew about QuickBase, and there wasn't a strategy for going to market to enterprises. And so what I started is on a journey of transformation with the team that started with, let's get our go-to-market strategy in motion right. So let's get everyone working in the same direction so we know who we selling to, what are we saying, how are we saying it, how are we selling? And so we spent quite a bit of time on that and then matched that with the org design. So how do we make sure all these talented people are in the right roles and working together every single day to accomplish that mission? And then we're just right now flipping into execution mode. And so how do we go big on brand to make sure people know that we have this amazing product that they never knew about before? And how do we create an enterprise go-to-market model where we can partner across sales, CS, and marketing to drive growth through customer obsession? You know, it's really easy to want to get in and just start going. And while it was painful, it was really important for us to step all the way back and build it from the ground up, meaning really take the time to do listening with our customers, to look at data on our market and build everything with the customer in the middle. And part two of that was it was really important to do it alongside our stakeholders, not without them, right? In the past, I've done some of these things where marketing's kind of gone off and driven something, and then it's been really hard to sell it to the rest of the organization. So I've had a really fortunate situation in having a great CRO that I partner with and a team that's very collaborative. And so we approach this as a go-to-market strategy exercise, not just a marketing strategy exercise. And so everything we've done, we've built together. And everything we've done, we've built from the customer. And so I think that puts us in a position where it can be super successful. I've gone through some of the practices we're implementing now to work better. I've gone through this in other places and they've atrophied and people haven't adopted them. And I'm so hopeful that what we're doing, I don't see any of that so far because I think we've been in this game together and everything's about like, how do we just add more value to the customer? Because that's really what everyone is in the same boat. And that means we're focused on the same things, we have the same scoreboard, we have interlocking practices across the teams.